You might not remember the days when cell phones were actually used to make phone calls. These days, calling someone might be considered rude. Sending direct messages is much more common. Messages are less intrusive and you can filter them and select which you want to read and whether you would like to answer them. But when we write code and use print commands to log messages to the console, we get all the messages in one place at the same time that they are printed. We have very limited control over which messages we want to see, which ones are important to us, and from which we would rather ignore. So in this video, we will start to learn how to print to file. This would be the basic. Later, we will use it to split the different messages into different files, so we can look on only the ones that are relevant to our current task. But for now, as I said, let's start with the basic stuff. Hi, I'm Shefig, and you are watching For the Love of Code. So let's just start. Let's print some messages to a file. I'm using the with statement to open the new file for writing. This is a simple text file that I call temp, and I'm pointing to this file using a pointer called f. For that, we need to use the as keyword. Then I can call the print function inside the with scope to print to the file. I do that by providing the f file pointer as the optional parameter file. After we run the script, we can reload the project folder from the disk and see that the file was created and that the messages that we printed were added. As we can see, the messages were printed to the file, but let's add some control by adding a menu. We will use while loop and input from the user. To make this interesting, we will create a menu for the basic calculation functions: add, subtract, multiply, and divide. As a first step, we'll print out a simple message for each function. We also add the option to quit. This option would exit the loop and finish our script run. You can see it's working. According to the different option we select from the menu, we get the appropriate message. And once we select 0, the program quits. Now let's implement a class that would handle writing log messages to files. What we need is the ability to write to files from anywhere. I'll keep it simple and write all my code in this one Python file that we are working on. But of course, a better practice would be to put it in another file. I'm calling this class myLogger. I'll add a class static variable called messageCounter. It has two purposes. One is to count the messages, and two is to be used to give each message an index. So I write this static function of logMessage. It would get one parameter for now. That would be the message itself. All the messages would be saved to the same file. What we need to do to use it is to call the class logMessage function instead of regular print function calls. The static method decorator is what marks this method as static. It's important to understand that when we want to start to work with a file, we have to know how to open it. If it is a new file, we want to open it for writing. This would create a new file and wouldn't work if the file already exists. On the other hand, if we want to continue writing and appending to an existing file, it has to exist in advance. So I'm using a flag that would be either A if we want to append to an existing file or W if we want to write to a file for the first time and need to create it. I use the inline if-else way of writing that is available in Python to give the flag the appropriate value. I use the os.pathIsFile method to check if the file already exists or if it is a new file. I would also create a static variable for the name of the default log file so I can reuse it. Next, we are going to print to the file. To do that, we are going to do three things. One is to open the file using the default name and the flag. Two is to increment the messages counter. 3 is to print to the file. We print the message counter as a message index and the message itself. Now we just have to use the function we've created. all we need in order to do that is replace the calls to the print function from our loop with calls to mylogger.logMessage static function. I just realized that there is something I forgot to do, and that is actually print to the file. In the logMessage function, I need to provide to the print function call the file to print to. If I don't, the message would just be printed to the terminal as before. I pass the pointer to the file, which is called f, as the value of the print function file parameter. Now let's run the script, select some different options from the menu, and then select 0 to quit the loop and finish the run. We see that everything works as expected. Let's add some logic. I'll write another class for the calculator. Next, I wrote a static method that would get two numbers from the user. I'll use this method in the calculation methods for add, subtract, multiply, and division. Here, we see the four calculation functions. It is quite simple. Each gets two numbers from the user by using the function we've written before, and then return its specific calculation result. But we actually need more than just the calculation result. In order to provide an informative message to the user, we would also need the two numbers we got from the user. That's why I'm changing the functions to return a tuple with three numbers. The first number we got from the user, the second number we got, and the result. Now, we can use the calculation functions and the returned numbers to log the information into the log file. Let's run the script, try different calculations, and see if the results were printed to the file. As we can see, the log file was created. It was then updated with the numbers we got from the user and the calculation result, according to the calculation function we've selected. In the next video, we will go a few steps forward and split the messages to different files. Thank you for watching. I would appreciate it if you like it, comment, or even share this video. And of course, you can subscribe to my channel. I'll see you on the next video of For the Love of Code.